roll call to convene back into public session. Of those members that are present, Mr. Coleman?
Present.
Ms. Dinelli?
Here.
Mr. Goodman?
Present.
Mr. Oates?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mr. Powell?
Here.
During the board meeting, we will be reaching out to a couple of board members who were unable to be here physically because they're traveling, but we will be reaching out to them, so we're just letting you know. Mr. Sanchez?
Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all finding ways to stay cool during the summer. On tonight's board agenda, there will be a resolution approving the district goals for the 2021-2022 school year. These goals are closely aligned to the goals and outcomes developed by our community during the strategic planning initiative. Thanks to the input of our stakeholders, we now have a roadmap to follow for the next 5 years as we strive to make the Hackensack Public Schools a model of excellence for others to follow. At the last Board of Education meeting, I reviewed the district's plan for safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of service, which is published on our website. Subsequently, the Governor Murphy held a press conference to outline those anticipated changes to school health and safety guidelines for the 2021-2022 school years. In the days that followed, the New Jersey Department of Education and the New Jersey Department of Health published the Road Forward document, which was shared to all via email, to provide school districts with recommendations to utilize in order to provide full-day, full-time, in-person instruction in September. In the near future, I look forward to reconvening with the district's reopening committee to modify our plan for the next school year as needed. This summer, we have begun to address the potential learning loss caused by the circumstances of the pandemic. I'm happy to report that our extended school year program, credit recovery programs, and summer enrichment programs are ongoing successfully. It's great to see our kids in school, in action, making up for lost time. Finally, there are many school facility projects that will be ongoing throughout this school year as we continue to renew our commitment to address our facilities' short-term and long-term needs. It should be noted that there may be delays to the start of some of these projects due to the backlog and the approvals at the New Jersey Department of Education. Nevertheless, we are excited to continue to provide our school community with much improved facilities. One such example is our newly renovated tennis courts. Please drive by when you have an opportunity. These tennis courts are truly beautiful. Now on to the enrollment report. There are currently 5,444 students enrolled in Hackensack Public Schools, and there were 2 total HIB investigations during the past month. That concludes my report. Enjoy the rest of the summer.
At this time, Mr. Powell, if it's agreeable, we will proceed to public comments. Please come up to the microphone. If there's not a sheet up there, if you could state your name, I would appreciate it, please.
Nice to have a crowd sometimes, right? Don't know if I'll win them over, but I'll try. Charlie Avalone, Hackensack. I just had a few questions about certain things. Last time I was here, 2 months ago, Ms. Zeno did explain why I didn't have to bring the budget in front of the citizens. But I noticed that you had $5+ million in ERSA, which is the elementary, secondary elementary relief from the state, which is something you're not going to get next year unless this continues on. And that seems to correlate with $4.5 million for elevator installation, window replacement, and replacing the boilers. Now, the windows is the only thing I see here that would help to change the air in the classrooms. Replacing boilers does not exchange air. Replacing elevators does not exchange air. Not that the elevators aren't important, but I'm just saying is the fact that because of COVID, you guys got a little extra money than you were going to get. What are you going to do in the future for other repairs that were in the referendum 2 years ago that this board decided not to push? And even the city council said they were going to push it, but I know it's old news and my wife will yell at me when I get home. But referendum didn't go through, so you're slowly nitpicking at it, but luckily you got extra money. What are you going to do next year? Okay, that's all. I mean, that's very important. Money doesn't grow on trees. Well, I guess it's paper, it does, so sorry. The other thing, you're changing policy 0131 again. Now, I believe you changed it not too long ago, but on the net, on your website, it's still listed as being okay to 2017. This is 2021, 4 years ago. And I can't even find a new policy you want to first reading tonight. So I believe there was a new policy a couple years ago. Why isn't it being updated, revised, whatever word you want to use? I'd like to get a copy of tonight's or read it so I can listen. That would be most appreciative. Still got plenty of time left. Well, you hear about the one now. Sorry. I guess that's about all. But I'm just saying it's fact. Schools are important.
What policy was that?
I'm sorry?
What policy was that?
It's your agenda. Policy 031, 0131.
0131?
Yes. I mean, I have it tonight in my book, and I looked on it before I came here tonight. It still says 2017.
Okay.
So I assume it's up to date based on what, 2 hours ago. Okay? And I'd like to get a copy of it, or if you're going to read it, that'd be great too. But you usually don't read them when you say first reading. So I guess you guys haven't been to church lately. You know, when they say first reading, they actually read it. I know, that's a joke. I'm sorry. I'm trying to use my time up. Okay, goodbye.
Thank you.
I don't want you to get away with anything, you know. 11 seconds of silence? Really?
Okay, buddy.
Good evening. Nicole Adams, HASA President. This is a unique moment in time when HASA members must work more diligently than ever as an administrative collective to address the diversified academic, social-emotional, and in some cases anxiety related to returning to our school buildings. As we move forward, we must engage with our teacher leaders, support staff, students, and families to cultivate a community of care that guides and informs instructional practices from a culturally proficient lens in alignment with curriculum mandates. As we actively look for ways to elevate student voice, and as stated in the board resolution, aspire to be anti-racist educators and infuse restorative practices in our buildings, it is contradictory to the goals that you set for yourselves and our school community to cut building leaders that are essential to continuing our progress. We will also have to deal with trauma and loss in our instructional communities. Many have experienced this. In cases of our students and their families, they are still in the grips of a post-pandemic existence and what this means for their lives. Many are currently unable to articulate their pain. These experiences must be prioritized before our students even open up their Chromebooks or read a classroom objective. There is real work to be done, and the aforementioned goals cannot be attained with less administrators or through a short-sighted concept of sharing leadership in elementary schools or expanding responsibilities of the high school guidance supervisor. There are only so many contact hours in a day that we get with our students, our staff, and parents. We want to continue to privilege their needs and our collective commitment to this very important work. These steps by the board will undoubtedly derail those efforts and simultaneously increase the workload for everyone. The sharing of administrators and the extension of job descriptions is both irresponsible and unrealistic during a time that the educational, emotional, and support needs of our students are more profound than ever. I hope and pray that you will reconsider the action posed and stand with us as a unit, as we believe the anticipated action here will severely weaken the building-based structures that serve as the bedrock of our educational community. As we reopen for full in-person learning, we are going to need more, not less, support. We would respectfully urge you to reconsider this anticipated consolidation of the vital educational services that HASA provides. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joy Dorsey Whiting, and I wear many roles in this community, all of with great pride and profound heart. Resident, taxpayer, parent. However, tonight, I stand before you in my role as educator and the very proud principal of Fannie Meyer Hiller School. My colleagues and I are here this evening to speak to the resolution tonight about sharing the two elementary assistant principals, Dr. Soto and Ms. Petron-Wall, between the 4 elementary schools. We are asking that you reconsider this decision because we believe that it is in the best interest of our children. We come before you to advocate for our students and our schools. Why? Because we know them best. And if we don't advocate for them and for what we need and what we know is right for the perpetuity of our schools, who will? Between the 4 of us, there is over 115 years of experience as educators in Hackensack. We have served as teachers, both classroom and special area, reading specialists, deans of students, and assistant principals. We have not wavered in our commitment to doing what is best for those in our charge. We are committed, reflective practitioners, and we have proven that we can do the job and do it well with the support we currently have in place. Kids are our business, and we are here tonight to say that sharing assistant principals between our 4 schools will cause our kid business to suffer in the continuity of service and level of educational experiences we provide. Our primary goal as building leaders is to be instructional leaders, not managers. By removing the full support of our assistant principals on a consistent basis, we will be torn between using our time and energy to provide support to teachers and students in the classroom and beyond, and to managing the daily operations of the building. A teacher of Instagram by the name of Nicole Lighton said it best: great school leaders constantly pay attention. They build a culture focused on student learning. They control mediocre teaching. They invite, they inspire. Tonight, Mrs. Loeb, Mr. Moran, Mrs. Whittaker, and I stand before you as school leaders who are always striving to become better. We are asking that you trust what we are sharing with you about the needs of our schools and our students, because in the end, it is the children who are our business, and we hope that this will lead you to our North Star.
Good evening. My name is Rhonda Ashton Loeb, and I'm the principal of Fairmount School. For the past 5 months, I have been the only administrator at Fairmount School after Mr. Whiting was transferred to the high school. I'd like to share why it is in the best interest of our students and school community to have both a full-time principal and full-time assistant principal. The nature and scope of the elementary principal position in our job description begins with, serves as the educational leader and chief administrator of the elementary school. Mrs. Whiting, Mrs. Whittaker, Mr. Moran, and I all have the capacity to be data-driven educational and instructional leaders. But there are many day-to-day responsibilities that keep us at our desks and not in classrooms with teachers and students to effectively be instructional leaders. By only having an AP 5 days out of every 10 days, the list of duties that keep us in our offices will only grow. Since March of this year, Fairmount has had 546 students enrolled, with 268 of them in person. But there were also 278 who are still our students, although they were taking classes virtually. There were 70 faculty and staff members and over 1,000 parents and guardians at Fairmount School. In what other profession is one person responsible for communicating with over 1,500 people? If the resolution passes this evening, Fairmount School's situation will be increased from 1 to 1.5 people responsible for 1,500 stakeholders. There are 89 performance responsibilities in total for the principal and assistant principal at the elementary level that I've passed out to you. Number 9 states that the principal observes and evaluates teachers and staff and makes recommendations for continued employment in accordance with code and board policy. I'd like to break this down from March to June for you for Fairmount School. I had to observe and complete 5 third-round observations for non-tenured teachers and 40 summative observations. I had to review 40 PDPs for last year, and 37 for the coming year. I had to observe and complete evaluations for 15 paraeducators, 2 administrative assistants, and 1 head custodian. I also had to write 5 non-tenured certificated teacher renewal recommendations and 16 non-tenured renewal recommendations for paras and custodians. Yes, evaluations and recommendations are a responsibility of an elementary administrator, and I'm not complaining about that. I just wanted to share some of the numbers that you might not be aware of. We stand before you tonight to please reconsider voting affirmatively on this resolution to share 2 assistant principals with our 4 elementary schools. For Fairmount Schools specifically, I ask that you consider the recommendation I made to Mr. Sanchez before the June Board of Education meeting to hire a very competent, full-time assistant principal to assist me and the Fairmount school community in the 21-22 school year, when our students will need 2 full-time administrators more than ever, academically and socially. We ask this on behalf of your children, our students. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christopher Moran, the very proud principal of Jackson Avenue School. I have been a Comet for the past 21 years. I want to thank the Board of Education for allowing us this opportunity to speak here this evening. Tonight, I stand proudly alongside Mrs. Whiting, Mrs. Whittaker, Mrs. Ashton Loeb, and I'm very optimistic, knowing and respecting this board, that after hearing the vital information shared with you tonight, there will be a deeper discussion about the administrative structure. Our district webpage promotes, quote, excellent in education. As a Comet, that comes with a commitment not to be average, however, to excel. To excel at something, you have to be willing to commit to it at the highest level to achieve that goal. Hackensack Public Schools has always strived to achieve excellence in many areas, not just limited to academics, but all areas of education. We pride ourselves on everything we do. When you build anything that will stand strong over a lengthy period of time, you start from the foundation. In this instance, we are building and discussing our students, the future at our elementary schools. I will not limit that statement to just academics, as we know there's so much more to education to limit it to just one tenet that they receive here in Hackensack. My concern, like many of yours, is the following. What will September look like? I honestly don't know. A normal school year, September is filled with anxiousness, excitement, and confidence to meet our students, to provide them with everything they need to succeed over the next 10 months. Not having an assistant principal to work with every day is very concerning, especially as we open our schools to all students, that we will be welcoming back students that have not physically been in school since March of 2020. Please ask yourself to walk in our shoes. More than half of our parents and guardians will be nervous to drop their children off because they have been home with them for the past 18 months. The parents and guardians will need a lot of support. Our teachers and paraprofessionals will need to support to address the issues that will present themselves. Most importantly, the students will be the ones that we have to support and teach from the infancy stages of it all. Removing an assistant principal at this time creates an element of uncertainty for everyone, and not something that is needed at most at this time. Education requires a shared commitment to achieve excellence. That is the standard we have set. It is our responsibility to support and complement our district philosophies and goals. We are gaining traction and consistency as an administrative team. Our APs met regularly to work on programs, lesson plan, reviews, presentations, just to name a few. The APs will meet their respective buildings principals, discuss all aspects of everything related to the many school functions, which are very, very much. We are doing or did the best we can. That was the mantra throughout every job this past year. I do not want to have to say that one more time this year. So I'll leave you with what I started. Hackensack Public School is committed to excellence.
Good evening. My name is Lillian Whittaker, and I'm a lifelong resident of Hackensack. I've worked in this district for over 45 years, and this is only the second time that I felt compelled to speak to the board in an open forum. As a principal, but more importantly, as an educator, I can say without a doubt that we have a great team of educators in Hackensack. What makes us great is that we talk, listen, and plan together. Why? Because we have a common goal: children. Everything we do is in the best interest of children. Parents trust us to care, protect, and educate their children, and I love them with all my heart and soul, hence the reason why I'm here. So I stand before you today to ask you to consider the children. In September, some will return into buildings that they left almost a year and a half ago. Their social and emotional needs are going to be massive. Never before has Hackensack or the world encountered what we are about to go through. Our children are facing unknown emotions, social and educational challenges this fall and beyond. I believe that the best way that we can help children is to make sure they feel relaxed, safe, and connected to their friends, teachers, and administrators. And excellent, they need a sense of normalcy. Our children are going to need more, not less. We need all hands on deck. I don't understand how seeing a vice principal on Monday or Wednesday on one week and not seeing him again until Thursday the following week is normal and in their best interests. I believe that you have not because you asked not. So I'm asking you not to pull staff from our buildings when our children are the most vulnerable. It would be nice if you asked us what we need instead of pulling the rug from under us. I've watched central office increase their staff over the years, and I'm not there, so I don't know why, and I'm not questioning the reason. But it makes me wonder why the 4 elementary schools have to share vice principals who serve children on a daily basis. Our numbers may have decreased, but our needs have tripled. I asked the board, how many of you visited our schools, joined a Zoom class before making decisions about our children's needs? I'm baffled, and it makes me go, where exactly are our priorities? I serve a God who provides all my needs. As Hackensack educated board members, I'm asking you to put the needs of our children first and foremost. Anyone who knows me knows my motto: if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or song, if I can show somebody they're traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. I think not allowing all 4 elementary schools to have their own vice principal is wrong. Therefore, I urge you to consider replacing 2 elementary vice principals so we can all give the children what they need, which is consistency and support. May I finish for 2 minutes? 1 second? 1 minute. Assistant principals are crucial in improving school culture and equity through their work with our children and their families. Someone once said, great leaders don't set out to be leaders. They set out to make a difference. It's never about the role, always about the goal. So as we collectively prepare to receive the children in September, let's not talk the talk, but walk the walk and provide for the needs of all children in Hackensack. As Spike Lee said, do the right thing.
Good evening. My name is Taline Hofsapian. I'm the guidance supervisor, and I'm here to speak about the board's decision to expand my role and responsibilities to Hackensack Middle School. While I agree that the middle school of over 1,500 students would benefit from an extra administrative and SEL support, the expansion of my role would not meet the great needs at the middle school, and it would take away crucial supports at the high school level. This is particularly true at a time when we begin to emerge from a remote world to in-person instruction with student emotional needs amplified, but still fully unknown. After 25 years in this district and 15 years as a guidance supervisor at the high school, my role has evolved, but ultimately my priorities have been dictated by the needs of our students, their families, and our staff. I hope that all of your families and children are healthy and thriving, but for over 1,800 students and their families at Hackensack High School, this is not always the case. Expanding my role now to include providing emotional support and guidance services for an additional 1,500 students in grades 5 through 8 does not appear timely or wise. As the only clinically trained administrator at the high school, I have put in place a clinical team that meets monthly to support the emotional and mental needs of our students and plan for post-risk assessment and hospitalization follow-up and care. Out of over 100 risk screenings that were performed this year, 40 resulted in actual assessments, and 43 referrals were made through me to Care Plus for ongoing counseling. Add that approximately 60 504s with counseling needs. Those of you who are familiar with the state know that rules for graduation change like the weather, and I'm constantly adjusting for these changes. There's a continuous need to review our curriculum and review student transcripts to ensure our students will graduate. Right now, there are 237 seniors this school year who have not yet met testing requirements for graduation due to the effects of COVID, and several student athletes that are recovering credit to be eligible to play this fall. While I deal with what can be characterized as the chaos of graduation, I also work to organize summer school, including registering and screening hundreds of students, their grades, transcripts, to ensure everyone is properly placed. Through it all, however, grading, honor roll, and rank have always been seamless and accurate. I am also the testing coordinator at the high school, responsible for data upload and administration of state and JSLA testing of over 1,300 students in ELA, math, and science, as well as PSAT testing for the entire 9th and 10th grades. Master scheduling alone takes months of work, starting in January and ending in August, coordinating with sending districts and child study teams to build a master schedule that addresses the needs of our students and staff. If I make these tasks sound easy, believe me, they are not. I have spent years creating procedures and perfecting my craft, and it will be impossible for me to duplicate these responsibilities as HMS while still maintaining a high quality of care for my family at the high school. It is also unfair to redistribute some of these tasks to other administrators at the high school level while we recover and prepare for our students to return to our building after the pandemic has affected us all. This is a time where our students need more support from the building-based administrators, not less. I'm here to advocate for all of our students and families that do not have a voice at board meetings, for the families that need us most. With all this said, I humbly request that you reconsider the decision to expand the role of guidance supervisor to 5 through 8. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard? Please come forward.
Greetings to all. My name is Megan Graham, and I am a resident of Hackensack, New Jersey, Clinton Place. On behalf of the Fairmont, on behalf of the Fairmont School PTA, we are in support of our very own principal, Ms. Ashton Loeb. How can we expect these elementary schools to be ran effectively with one leader who has to hold all the weight with no one to assist her? As the PTA president, I have witnessed Ms. Ashton Loeb work long, extensive hours, including weekends. Her hard work and dedication is a sentiment of how much she really cares about our children. These are our children, and they are our future. My very own daughter really and truly missed Dr. Galliana, who was very involved in our students' life as an assistant principal. She spoke about school dances, the morning announcements, and of course, his infamous TikTok dances with his daughter, which set the tone preparing them academically for the workday. If we are saving money by choosing not to hire a full-time assistant principal, then where will all that money be allocated to? It is imperative to hire an assistant principal to assist, drop off, and go, and many other events that will take place as all students will return back to in-person learning in the fall. As an advocate for our children, we must not negate our principals, teachers, faculty, and staff who help shape and mold our children into successful individuals. Thank you so very much for allowing me to speak.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Raviana Hadinata. I'm a parent. Now my youngest son is gonna entering kindergarten at Jackson Avenue. I just learned, and even listening to tonight's testimony and also statements from the principals, that we are sharing assistant principals. As a parent, I'm already nervous as it is, knowing that my son has a special needs. And it had him through a lot, especially during COVID's time. The social, emotional, it's even taking him back a little bit further, and it takes him a lot of work, and me and also the school at ECDC at that time, so that he can improve, which I'm glad we got the support, and he's so happy that he's going to Jackson Avenue, knowing that that school was the alumni of my first child. Now he's in the 8th grade. He knows Mr. Moran. He doesn't know you're as a principal yet, but he's a cool guy. So that's what he said. So he's very enthusiastic to go, and knowing that he will feel safe. Like he knew when his brother used to be in that school. And now knowing that there will be no assistant principal on regular basis, I don't know what to do with that, because I'm gonna be confused myself, let alone the other parents that has different background with language barrier, and also the children. We need stability, and we owe that to them. I owe that to my son. My son cannot be here. He's 5 and he has trouble speaking. So I'm here voicing my concern. And I'm pretty sure many other parents concerned who cannot be here. Please reconsider to have a working administrator placed in our building. I hope you can reconsider my concern as a parent, and also a voice from my son. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening. My name is Gwenny Burt, Hackensack school teacher, product of the Hackensack school system, cheerleading coach, clergy, all of the above. My concern tonight is that my heart has been made extremely heavy by decisions that we make that don't seem to affect our children. They don't keep them in mind. To remove assistant principals from our elementary schools is a grave error. It will provide a very big mistake. Our kids haven't been in school for over a year, and now we want to bring them back to an environment where they don't recognize all of the faces, where they're going to be changing, and they're not going to get all of the support that they need. I don't know about you, but I'm very clear that I work in a building with one of the greatest principals in the world. And the reality is, I've had a chance to work with the other principals as well. And they have a very difficult task that is made easier by the team that they work with, and those are the assistant principals. So to pull them out at this point doesn't make a lot of sense. We passed the budget, I believe, and the budget should have included the salaries for all the individuals that we need to cover our administrators in our building. And so it's not like we don't have the money to pay the person. And so the reality is, if we didn't have a superintendent, we'd look for one, and we'd fill that spot. If we didn't have someone else, we'd look for that person and fill that spot. Well, you have 2 empty places for assistant principals. Fill the spot with the right person for what we need for our kids. There are a lot of decisions that are made in this district. And to me, growing up here and watching the things that happen, they don't make a lot of sense to me. Like the custodian who stopped me at the front door to ask me to sign a COVID screener, but we don't have AC in this building, in this meeting tonight, to make it comfortable for everybody. Like the fact that this is an in-person meeting, but the reality is we could have also made it virtual. You're gonna call into some board members who need to be there. Why couldn't we open it to the community? There are some people who could have been here tonight if it had been made a virtual meeting. We make a lot of decisions that suit your needs, but it doesn't suit the community's needs. We talk about stakeholders. Who were they? Who did you talk to? We never seem to be the ones that hear the conversation before the paper is laid on the table. And so my request tonight is that you really rethink the best interests of our kids. We need assistant principals in our buildings. They can't function without the team. It is the teamwork that has made the dream work. Our kids are coming back. As Ms. Whittaker said, we need all our ducks in a row. You make sure yours are in central office. Now let us make sure ours are in the building. Thank you.
Good evening. I was not planning to speak, so I apologize for my random thoughts. My name is Heather Bennett Corey. I have a rising 9th grader. We are a graduate of Parker School, and I love all the schools, but I'm partial. I think Parker is the best. And the one thing that I'm going to say is, having a daughter going into the high school, and having a daughter that's just come out of this pandemic, and having a daughter who lost her father during this pandemic, the best thing that I can tell you is the foundation that she received at Parker is what got her through this, okay? When we found out about her father and I called Miss Whittaker, she was the first person to ask me what I needed. And I've been out of that school for 4 years. But not only that, the foundation. Gabby loved Parker. She loved all of her teachers. I see some of them here. They all reached out to me when they found out about her. This is what this district is about. And by messing with this foundation, the kids in the elementary school now are not going to be as resilient as my child is. My child, through this pandemic, got straight A's. Straight A's. And she's in all AP classes, or whatever they're called now. Why is that? That is because of the foundation she got at Parker. Taking away the vice principals, I can't even imagine how Ms. Whittaker is going to do the work. My daughter was in aftercare. I would show up at 6 o'clock to pick her up, and she was still there working. And again, this is nothing against the rest of, I just don't know you quite as well. Ms. Whittaker was there at 6 o'clock. Okay, when I would drop off at school, she was there early. So one of the other things that my daughter really liked was Mr. Giorgio, because she felt that she could go to him when she couldn't go to Ms. Whittaker. She felt that sense of security, that sense of safety, and you guys are about to blast this right out of the water. And I think this is one of the worst moves that you can make for our little, little babies. Now, I wasn't gonna say anything because when I first heard about this, I was like, oh, this really doesn't affect me, let me figure out what I really, but you know what, it does affect me because my daughter wouldn't be where she is now without them. She wouldn't be. And giving the principals more work to do when they're coming back from COVID, I'm just sitting here thinking, how is my daughter going to adjust to going back into school in person with this heavy thing that she has on her head? What's going to happen if she needs additional support? What's going to happen to all of these little babies who possibly lost a parent or someone extremely important to them from COVID? Who's going to give them that support? Because I can tell you right now, Ms. Whittaker is going to do everything in her power to do that, and she doesn't have enough hours in the day to do that, plus raising her granddaughter. I don't know what you expect these human beings to do, because they are miraculous. And I am just so, I just can't even believe that we're having this conversation to get rid of 2 administrators during COVID. These kids need more support, especially with state testing happening in September. They need more support. They need help. The teachers need help. Who are the teachers going to go to if they have an issue? And I also respectfully ask that you put these meetings back on Zoom. I can understand not allowing people to participate via Zoom, but broadcast them so that those of us that have other things to do, we can watch them on our phones. We can at least know what's going on. I don't have to sit here in a hot wherever we are, sweating to do this. So please reconsider. Thank you.
So the air conditioning, just while we're waiting for the next speaker, the air conditioning is actually being worked on right now. I mean, nobody was expecting this, so I apologize, but there is air conditioning normally in this venue.
Good evening, Donna West. lifelong resident, HEA president, educator here but I'm not reading tonight from HEA. I am actually reading this from a parent who is trying to get here. I don't think she's going to make it. So she says, I just want to start by saying kudos to the board. Okay, I'm going to have to reread that. Okay. I just want to start by saying kudos to the board for some of the great changes in the district. I'm sorry, I should have, yeah. No offense. I feel like we are moving in the right direction, especially in regards to technology and buildings and grounds. However, I am concerned about many of the other changes going on. I feel that our growth is causing collateral damage. In the case of the school district, that is our students. It seems as we're looking at the bigger picture and growing our district, we are forgetting to measure the impact on the daily school experience of the kids. The first change was substitutes. We moved to an external company and we constantly have strangers in the building. Some of them don't even know the name of the principal, which teachers are in which grade levels, where places are in the school, such as specials, and the nurse's office. This past year, we had contracted subs, which were amazing. They made the transition to substitutes in the classroom so much better for students. They were familiar faces who knew the teachers and we knew them. Next were the paras, who were cut to part-time. Full-time paras are still being phased out. It is unfortunate that some of our best full-time paras are starting to retire and some of our best part-time paras are moving on to other positions with benefits inside and outside the district. Next, our lunch aides were fired as a result of the pandemic, or should I say their contracts were not renewed. Now they're being expected to reapply for the same position for $7 less pay. It seems extremely disloyal and unethical to release people due to the pandemic directly and then expect them to take a pay cut to come back for the same job. Our district is not in a worse financial position now than we were before virtual learning. I don't think there's any reason that our veteran lunch aides should be taking that pay cut. A fair compromise would be to give them their same rate upon returning to work and hire new lunch aides at the new rate. Now the district is looking to eliminate vice principals at the elementary level. I couldn't believe this news when I heard it. Have you had a chance to ask the principals that worked this year how it went? I think we are sadly mistaken if we think the schools will run as efficiently without a second full-time administrator within the building. Vice principals take on essential roles, including manning the building when the principal is off premises. It makes me wonder how testing such as NJSLA will be able to take place at all 4 schools with only 2 shared vice principals as testing coordinators. It also makes me wonder how the principal will be able to adequately observe and evaluate most staff members with having a shared vice principal. Just to make it clear, I do understand that the New Jersey School Board's training was very clear in the fact that school board members are not to manage the day-to-day functions of the district. However, they should be looking at the larger functioning of the entire district. I'm almost done, I'm so sorry. While the vice principal is at the school level, I do think the elimination or sharing of the vice principals will put a drastic strain on the functioning of the elementary schools. I'm asking you, as a school board, to please consider tabling this decision and taking time this year to allow our district to adjust back to fully in-person learning before creating such a drastic change in our leadership structure. With that, I apologize. I challenge each of you to spend a day in the life of a principal and or vice principal to see how the 2 roles complement each other in the day-to-day functioning of the school. In addition, I challenge you to provide concrete and measurable rationale for this change, other than the fact that other schools are doing it. Moreover, please consider having a one-on-one conversation with the principals that worked this year partially or entirely without a vice principal. Take a moment to ask them how it went. Ask what essential school functions suffered or could not be implemented due to the lack of the vice principal. Thank you.
Evening, everybody. My name is Tony Jackson. I live here. I teach here. And my daughter is going to be starting at Fairmount School in September. A lot of what I have to say is echoing my colleagues, my community members. Regarding item C22, among the district goals is to build, empower, and engage the community by strengthening parent and community partnerships built upon trust. Taking away the option to participate in the meeting via Zoom makes everything that you do here less accessible to the community. So I hope that that is something that is going to be continued to find a way to make that work. You mentioned building trust, which I believe that you have to work harder at earning, and that goes from trust of the community to the students to the staff as well. Some of the recent decisions to remove administrators, mental health professionals, counselors, social workers, psychologists from buildings in which they've worked hard to build and earn trust within the school community seems to fly in the face of multiple statements about creating an environment which maximizes students' social and emotional growth. I don't understand that. Creating an environment is at several points throughout those goals. A learning environment that supports students' lifelong learning by recruiting, hiring, retaining, and developing that faculty. And I noticed that the word support isn't there, which was a big deal for me. It is not a goal. If it is not a goal to sufficiently support the staff, you can't just hire and assume that you're going to retain them. Just because people are staying here doesn't mean that they are supported. So please make sure that in your language you see those gaps. I feel like if I'm missing any glaring holes, you can let me know. You know how to reach me. I also am curious about where we are with the anti-racism resolution. I think that it should be treated the same way we post and point to reports about our scores, but I don't see that conversation and those conversations in this platform around the efforts to live out that resolution. So I think that that's something that needs to be pushed a lot harder, and it can't just be something that is discussed and put on a report discussed among yourselves. I think that should be prominent on the website. There should be a clear definition of some of those terms: racism, anti-racism, equity, bias, many other terms. That should be for all stakeholders to see. And something I'd really personally like to see is have that in language for our students. Why is this something that only the staff is supposed to be able to read and listen to? If this is something that should be lived by all of us and taught to our students, it should exist for the students, and the students should be able to take that in. I leave by saying that as my daughter starts in September at Fairmount, I think of the times that Ms. Whittaker and Ms. Petronwall were there in an instant in this extremely difficult year with multiple students I had. I mean, we dealt with everything from Zoom bombings, from students who were traumatized and had issues, any number of issues, and I could depend on that support at any given time. I can't imagine, I don't want to imagine my daughter starting school, having an issue, and there being less support for her and less support for her teacher. So please make sure that you are not only listening to everything that everybody's saying, but that you're hearing it, and we'd like to see action taken. Thank you.
Cassine Gaines, Hackensack High School. I just wanted to make a point about process, because this is a very consequential decision that's being made to split the vice principals at the elementary schools. And the rationale has not really been explained, and there hasn't been a public forum on this decision that impacts 3,000 families within our community. To have this be something that is announced via the personnel agenda, posted at 3 p.m. today, is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. For this to happen at the first meeting that is not accessible via Zoom is unbelievable. It sounds deliberate, actually. It sounds deliberate. And I think that there needs to be more engagement with the public in the same way that we put those announcements up on the website with the big red exclamation point to let us know that this is going on or that is going on. This is a red exclamation point sort of issue right now. This is that sort of issue. This isn't a 3 p.m. before the meeting issue. This is a big one. And I think that in the same way that we had 4 community meetings for long-term district planning to figure out what the community wanted to see from their school system, we need to put that same sort of energy into this plan right now. The community didn't ask for an awning for a drop-off center over the high school. They want stability for their kids. They want support for their kids. They want the same for their kids that they have in other school districts because our kids deserve it. I don't know any school district that cuts their way into success. I don't know any school district that gets rid of staff and gets better results. Now, if that school district exists, I'd like to know about it, but I don't know that school district. And so the last thing I want to say is the point about the air conditioning, and I had to laugh in my seat about the apology for the air conditioning, because to me, this is just a normal day in a Hackensack public school. What you see out here is what I see in my classroom every September, every May, every June, when my kids are taking tests, when my kids are trying to learn. It's this temperature or worse. So this might be a shock to people that are in air conditioning all day, but this is just another day in Hackensack to me, and to all of our kids. So that needs to be something on our priority list as well. Thank you.
This closes the public comments.
Excuse me, Mr. President and Mr. Superintendent, may I just make a brief statement, just not necessarily in response to any individual member of the public who spoke, but just in general. The first thing is Zoom. As many of the members of the public and or board members know, prior to the pandemic, a public board of education was not allowed to conduct a meeting by Zoom. The Open Public Meetings Act in the state of New Jersey required meetings to be conducted in person, attended by at least a majority of the board members, and also giving the public the right to physically come and attend and observe the action taken by a public entity, as well as have an opportunity to comment at the meeting as you did tonight. To the extent that there is a request for Zoom to be the norm, that is a policy issue and or a state legislative issue that can be addressed. But this meeting tonight is being held in accordance with the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, and in fact, as of about 3 or 4 weeks ago, boards and or other public entities were required to go back to in-person meetings predominantly. With respect to personnel actions, as many, at least as many members of the union, especially leadership positions in a union, know that a Board of Education administration are prohibited from discussing personnel in public. And so to the extent that there is a request for a public discussion of the board, my advice would be for the board not to discuss any personnel-related decisions prospectively and or in real time in public. I will say that the board does intend to go back into closed executive session this evening per the request of the board president to review personnel-related matters, which will include the discussion of issues that were raised tonight. But again, it would be misleading to the public for those who may not know that the board is legally prohibited from discussing personnel actions in public. It would be a violation of any individual's personnel rights unless that person wanted it to be in public, which to my knowledge, no individual who may be affected by any action on this agenda tonight has requested this board to discuss their individual personnel situation in public. Thank you.
May I proceed? Right now? Okay. Is there a motion to convene into closed session? Mr. Nully, seconded by? Mr. Oates?
Ms.
All
Zito,
in
can
favor?
we just state that the purpose of the closed session will be just to discuss personnel-related matters? Do we have the agenda item numbers, what they are? It would be for the vice principals and for, I think there was also reference to the aides. So for the vice principal positions on the agenda, as well as the lunchroom aide positions, minutes will be kept in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act and released to the public if and when the need for confidentiality no longer exists, and action may be taken by the board when it reconvenes in public session. Thank you. You can do a roll call now.
Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Noe? Yes. Mr. Goodman?
Yes.
Mr. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yep.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
For clarification for the public, the individuals who, board members who are not here live will not be participating in the closed session, just for, so you know. Okay. Thank you.
Here.
Mr. Goodman?
Here.
Mr. Nelly?
Here.
Mr. Oates?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mr. Powell?
Here.
Scott.
And we have Mr. James Vickery on Mr. Sanchez speakerphone, telephone. Mr. James Vickery, could you say hello?
Hello, I'm here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the first order of business is to approve the minutes of the June 21st board meeting. Is there a motion to that effect?
Motion.
Moved by Mr. Powell,
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Goodman. Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Nully?
Yes.
Mr. Goodman?
Yes.
Mr. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I wasn't there, so I'll abstain.
Mr. James Vickery?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Minutes of June 21st carried.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. At this point, we'll move into our resolution, seeing that public comments is now ended. But before we go into our resolutions, I will defer to Mr. Sanchez to say a couple of comments.
Yes, hello again, everyone. So first off, I'd just like to thank all of our parents, teachers, obviously our principals that came out tonight in support of our assistant principals at the elementary schools. These decisions are not decisions that we take lightly. There's a global perspective that's looked at when we make these decisions. But what I can tell you is that, while I can't comment clearly on any personnel matter specifically, I can tell you that we will continue to dialogue and figure out how we move forward and continue to support the schools, because that's critically important to us. We heard you loud and clear. I can't get into exactly how that's going to look, but we will be talking real soon. I'll bring in the association president as well as the principals to discuss how we can move together, to continue to support our children. Because, listen, without saying it, it's very obvious to all that you will always do what's right for kids, and I know that sincerely. I've even said that to you guys. I know you guys will never, not do what it takes for our kids, so I appreciate that. That being said, the transfer's still on the agenda because I can't leave the two remaining principals by themselves until late August. Obviously, there's a lot of planning that has to take place this summer. I don't want two principals to be by themselves, so the transfers are on the agenda. We will be moving forward with that. However, this week, we will meet to discuss, what we can do to, to move forward with our district. That's all I have for now, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. At this point, we'll move into our resolutions. And Mr. Vickery, personnel.
Yes, so we met on Tuesday instead of Monday this week because of last week because of the holiday. And so I present to my fellow trustees A1, A through M.
It's A1 through AL.
AM.
M?
Yes, he's correct.
Okay.
Oh, okay. It was moved by Mr. James Vickery. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Powell. On the roll call, Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Nully? Mr. Goodman?
Yes.
Mr. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. James Vickery?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Motion carries. Policy.
Yep. Before we move on to policy, on tonight's agenda, we just hired a new HR manager. He's here today, Tunde Adedoyin. Could you please come up and, say a few words to everyone in the public? Congratulations.
Good evening, Board Trustees, Mr. Sanchez. I'm not going to take too much of your time. I am excited to be joining the Hackensack community. I come to you with 15 years of human resources experience, specifically in education. I just can't speak to the level of joy that I have right now. I'm really excited and looking forward to collaborating and partnering with everyone here and you all as well. All right, thank you and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Welcome.
Welcome. Policy?
Policy. Let me see here. Met again on this week, had a great policy meeting with the committee. And on tonight's first read is the revised policy number 9180, school volunteers, and 9181. Special note to 9180, this is the policy we've been talking about now since the fall. And it reads, the revision in the second paragraph, in those cases where school volunteers offer their support services on a regular basis, defined as more than one time per week, the unpaid volunteer must obtain a criminal history record check to be reimbursed by the board. I feel like we worked hard on this. We've talked to a lot of people, Ms. Rosemary Marks, Denelli, and Trustee Coleman. And for the safety of our kids, for the future of this district, this was a great job done by all to change this policy. And it speaks to why the board is here, is we are the governing engine that drives this thing. So I just want to commend them for this. This is exactly what is needed at this time. Also, the volunteer athletic coaches, it just says in there a couple updates. The verbiage changed, but it also is highlighted, and the highlight will stay, that the volunteer athletic coaches and volunteer co-curricular activity advisor assistants serve only in a support capacity, and only head or assistant coaches or activity advisors or assistants employed by the board are responsible for the supervision and instruction provided to students participating in athletic programs or co-curricular activities. We're just highlighting that note. And we've also added one little line to there, that all school volunteer athletic coaches shall complete the required training and certification regulations as set forth by the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association. Now, we have been doing that, but this is just a revision to make sure our policies jive with the athletic, school athletic coaching and our athletic competition policy. So those were some changes that we brought up ourselves. Mr. Avalon, the policy, the bylaws policy 0131, that does say 2017 on there. That was the last revision. Now this new change that is going up for first read tonight has some changes in the verbiage and language, and after our second read, it will be on the website, so it takes two, and we'll have a copy for you. These are the changes. No, this is the first reading tonight for these. Okay, all right, yeah, let's get together, we'll see what's on the same page. Then and now. Okay, all right. We'll take a look at it.
Thank you.
So, sorry for that.
No, that's.
Thank you, Mr. Evelyn. No, I'm sorry. Okay, all right, so, on the policy, again, a lot of these policies, changes in verbiage, there are some that have been abolished, and there are some that have been changed with the language, but I offer up to my fellow trustees, let me find the numbers here.
B1.
Just B1.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Coleman. On the policy, first reading, B1, Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Nolly?
Yes.
Mr. Goodman?
Yes.
Mr. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. James Vickery?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Policy reading B1, motion carries.
Curriculum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Upon recommendation of the superintendent, I move for board approval, resolution C1 through C22. C6 is the comprehensive plan for statement of assurance. C7 is for approval upon the recommendation of the superintendent for a partnership with Montclair University to place potential STEM teachers from Montclair and Bergen Community College for field experience. C12 is approval for 3 45-minute presentations by children's book author Matt De La Pena, Jackson Avenue. C18, cultural proficiency, professional development. C19, teacher training for Hackensack Middle School, incoming 5th grade summer program. C20, that is the approval of outside tuition for students. And C22 is the approval of the district goals. So again, I move C1 through C22.
Second by Mr. Noe. If there's no discussion, roll call. Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Noe?
Yes.
Mr. Goodman?
Yes.
Mr. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. James Vickery?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes. Finance and budget.
Curriculum passes.
All right, good evening, everyone. The Finance Committee met last Tuesday, as Mr. James Scott Vickery had said. That's when we had our meetings. And I offer the Finance Committees D1 through D12. I wanted to point out one item in D8, which is related to the insurance coverages, that this year we have an additional almost $25,000 for cyber security liability, and that's so that we do not have to have a $500,000 deductible. So it's an additional cost, but it would save us a lot of money if, God forbid, we were subject of ransomware or other hacks. So I wanted to mention that. And that was the only one that I really wanted to mention at this point. So I offer these resolutions.
Seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. On the roll call, Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Noe? Mr. Goodman?
Yes.
Mr. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. James Vickery?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Building and grounds.
Yes, building and grounds. I'd like to say that I'm on the building and grounds committee, as I sit here sweating with you guys, I want to tell you that one of the reasons I ran on this board is to make sure that the facilities were up to date. And your concerns about the AC and all those facility issues, I promise you are being addressed and are in the works. No room should ever be like this. So please, you can address me specifically when you want to talk about buildings and grounds, because I'm telling you that's one of the things that I ran for, and I'm working towards making sure that our kids have the best facility. I'd like to offer to the board E1 and E3, with E3 being remedy to the boiler being fixed and a warranty attached to it.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Goodman? On the buildings and grounds items through E3, Mr. Coleman?
Yes.
Mr. Noe? Mr. Goodman?
Yes.
Mr. Oates?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. James Vickery?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
We're now finished with resolutions. We'll move into board comments.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out today, all of our principals, everyone that came out to speak on behalf of our students.
Mike?
Yeah.
I would like to just thank every single staff member, our principals, everyone, parents that have come out on behalf of our students. Of course, that's exactly why we do what we do. That's why I'm on the board, to make sure that we are considering our children in all that we do. So I'm excited about the fact that we will be going back to the table to speak to Mr. Sanchez and see what would be the best thing to do for our scholars and our families, because that's what we're here to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, I'd like to reiterate that. I'd like to thank the parents, administrators, teachers, residents who showed up. It matters, and we are listening. That's why that's why I'm here, and that's what I do. What I do is for you guys, for the kids, the parents, and the teachers. So you guys give me a lot to think about. All right, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Goldman? Sure.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll be extremely brief. I know our position as a member of the board, as a trustee of the board. It's our position to govern and set policy for the school district. And it's not for us to second guess or micromanage. There's a chain of command, obviously, in a school system. And whatever decisions that are being made here, I think all of those decisions are well thought out, and a lot of things are being considered. And a lot of things that may not reach public comment are part of those considerations. I will say that, I know some of you just by face, some of you just by name. Happy to see Ms. Ashton Loeb. She's had at least one of my kids in her school and in her care for the last 7 years. And I can't underestimate how much I appreciate the care and concern by our administrators and our teachers. They have taken kids of mine that are high achieving and have sought out opportunities for them to excel in different places and in different opportunities. And conversely, they found and identified special needs that my kid may have, and have given the special attention that is deserving and needed, and gone the extra mile. I can still remember the time that she excoriated me for missing a boost session. So, I don't ever want anyone to think that what we're doing is counterproductive to advancing the education achievements of our kids. And I hope that the lines of communication can remain open. I hope that we can discuss a lot of things that reach these public comments, a lot of things that we can discuss and reach resolutions for, to make sure that whatever needs may come to pass in the coming year, because we don't know what the coming year is going to bring for us, that we can address it uniformly and try to meet as a united front to do what's best for our kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Stokes?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. There's a lot of passion in this room. There is a lot of love for these students in this room. I echo the sentiments of Trustee Coleman, Rodriguez, and Denali. But I've always said our bosses are the 5,444 kids in the district. That being said, our job is to govern and set policy. We are not administrators. So we have to do this with our heart and our brain, right? To put the faculty and everybody in a position to succeed, to put the teachers in a position to motivate a love of learning. That's what we're here for. But there is a but, because sometimes these things are harder than they look. They have to be sustainable. So these are tough decisions that we meet against, and these are hard things we're talking about, and these are decisions that hopefully they may not be popular one day, they may never be popular, but sometimes some decisions have to be made. And I appreciate the fact that we have the ability to always critique and always adapt to things that are changing on the fly. I've seen that with the administrators and the principals, the teachers, and our superintendent. So in the hopes that when things happen, we can adapt and change it for the better. Again, we have to be sustainable. We have to be able to, we have these 5,444, but there's going to be more students 5-10 years from now. And we have to create an environment and a district and motivate the learners in this district and have that ability to be there in 10 years. I may only be on this board for another 2 years. I gotta be honest, it's a lot of fun, a lot of work. I love it, but I'm starting to get gray hair right here when my beard grows in. So if there's anything I could do, if there's anything, it's to make sure that we are sustainable, to give the kids of the future what my kids have here now. That's why I'm here. This is it, man. This is it right now, right here, right now. But we have to think with our hearts and our brains about how we make our district sustainable. With that being said, Trustee Rodriguez had mentioned the buildings and grounds, the air conditioning. I think as part of the ESA program, when it's all said and done, not one classroom will be without air conditioning. And there's going to be changes to the structural components, the electrical grid and the whole thing. And with the solar panels and all these changes that are coming, we're going to catapult this district into the future. We have to be sustainable. With that being said, also we just got our Mean Green electric lawnmower, which is a huge step in being sustainable. Again, they can run on electric, half the decibel. There is no cost on maintenance. There is no fuel. There is no oil. There is no clean the carburetor. There's nothing. It'll pay for itself in the long run about being sustainable. So there are positive things happening in this district. And it may not seem like it today, but we are all on the same page. There's no doubt about it. We are here together. We are in this together. But we have to make this work. The supers, the assistant supers, us, everybody with the love and the passion that you brought tonight. This is what it's about. This is really what it's about. We are never going to see eye to eye on everything. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. But I'm confident that every single person in this room has the students and the kids in mind when they make decisions for the district, and that's why I love it here, and that's why I'm not leaving anytime soon. Go Comets.
Thank you, Michael.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank all of you for coming out in person in the heat. It's really important to get to see everybody because this is our district. Every one of you definitely has the passion and the love of all of our children, as do we. So thank you very much for coming out tonight. I wanted to make sure that all of you, if you haven't already seen our tennis courts, drive by them. I can't wait till we have our first tournament and other schools come to what they remember having been horrible tennis courts, and that we have something really, really amazing. So that's a testament to what we're doing in this district. I also want to very warmly welcome Mr. Adedoyan. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Welcome to the district. That would be really great. And just let's keep on doing what we do and get ready for a school opening in September. I'm really excited for the kids especially. They've lost out on so much. Really, really have lost out on a lot. So it will take this village to get them back into a good way. Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Scott?
Trustee Vickers?
I appreciate the robust kind of debate that's happened trying to figure all this out, and I want to echo Trustee Oates about our main goal is making sure that our children are well cared for and educated in a way that is most appropriate for our district, and looking to the future and sustainability. That is a key word, sustainability. And I apologize for my not being there in person tonight. This is the first meeting I've had to not be there in person in a couple of years, but I needed to be with my family. So I appreciate everyone. Go Comets. Thanks.
Thank you, Scott. Just want to add just wanted to add a couple of things. The comments from the board members, well said. Mr. Avalon, thank you for bringing the windows to our attention. You keep us on our toes, as always. Thank you. And we'll make sure they're addressed. And that's what we're here for with the ESIP, the windows, everything will be addressed. But it takes time. Rome wasn't built in one day. Many of these issues were long-standing issues, and we're getting to them one by one, and they're getting done, and they will be done. So just bear with us as we go through these projects, and in the end, you will be excited and happy with what we're doing to transform our schools. And regarding the policy, Ms. Avalon, you're sure between you and Trustee Oates, we'll figure it out, and we're working on it, and we'll make sure whatever you're asking for, you receive it. And policies at times need to be upgraded, they need to be changed. That's what it's all about. And it's really hot in here, but I've been coming to this room for a long time, even before I became a board member, just coming and sitting out there where you are sitting right now. And it's been a chronic issue, but we're getting there. Feels a little bit cooler now, anyway, but we're getting there, and it's been hot outside, it's been very humid, but it will be fixed, and whenever we're back, some point in the near future, we'll be getting nice, cool air blowing on us. So just, once again, just bear with us, and we'll get it done. The new tennis courts, if you haven't seen them, go take a look at them. They're beautiful. I'm not a tennis player, but Mikey, I'll challenge you to a game. All right? All right, but they're beautiful, and in comparison to what they were looking like before, I just want to commend everyone that was involved with this, the BA superintendent, everyone, the building and grounds, all the finance people, the entire board, and for all the people involved. To bring these type of tennis courts to Hackensack shows our commitment to our students, okay? Our continued commitment. You saw the field at the middle school. I'll take a look at these courts, and at some point, we'll be having a grand, opening, and we'll invite you, come along and celebrate with us. Zoom was addressed. There were a couple of questions about Zoom. That was addressed by our board attorney. Thank you, sir. And we're happy to have you today, sitting with us. Thank you. I don't know we got so lucky, but I'll take it. Well, thank you for being here today. Welcome to our new HR director. We welcome you with open arms, and we wish you all the best. Hackensack is a great district, so we look forward to having you here. Having an HR director in our district is critical. It's a critical role, and I'm sure you'll do a wonderful job. And we'll support you. And on that note, there was a point made about support staff that we hire, but we may not support. Good point. But I think Ms. Parchment, if I can remember, when she made her presentation, she had mentioned about supporting our staff. I made notes on it before, and I looked back and I saw it. And regardless, we'll continue. Good point you made, Mr. Jackson, about supporting the staff. Hiring them and leaving them by themselves to sink or swim is not a good idea. So we'll continue to support them, nurture them, so we can keep them and make them into the ultimate professionals. So thank you for bringing that up. And we'll really, we'll make sure that happens, not just saying it in words. It's very critical. So that was a good point. Thanks again. Like Mikey said, and I'll close, as board members, we have to be careful of our roles. Board members do not administrate districts. The administrative staff does. So we have to be careful, how we go about doing business. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a good point. We will make sure that our students receive not just the resources they need, but all the resources they need. And that's what we're here for, Hackensack Strong. And we have to make sure that we do not micromanage our administrative staff. It's not a good practice, so we try not to do that. So we heard you, and we listened to you, and like I always said, we don't take these comments lightly, and we appreciate you coming out here today to our first open meeting. It's a big meeting, it's a packed meeting. It's great. A year ago, we didn't know if we were going or coming with COVID. We lost loved ones, we lost friends, and I always say there's a lot to be grateful for. And for those people who are going on and they're not here, let's keep them in our prayers and in our thoughts. But hopefully COVID is in the rearview mirror right now. I'm hoping and praying. And as we move towards September, I know Hackensack Strong, we are very resilient. I saw it through COVID. And we'll continue to be strong and resilient. And together, we'll get through this. We're just not one individual trying to do this or make decisions. Mikey, I shaved my head because it all became gray since I got here. So, you know, I can understand where you're coming from. But I love being on the board. I love what I do. I love working with my board members. And I always say I love our staff. My son went to the district. He's a testament to the staff. And I always say Nellie K. Parker and all the other schools have had a great impact on my son's lives. And I'm sure many of you interacted with him. You know exactly what I'm talking about. But you gave him your best. And that's why I can sit here and say, I have confidence in you that we will work this out together. We will not leave you hanging. And like Mikey said, he enjoyed having his kids in his district. I just want to thank you again for what you did for Dylan and for all kids, And we will work this out. We heard you. And together, we will continue to dialogue and we work this out because, like Mike said, it's all about the kids. Then our teachers. And it's all about our parents too. It's not about us as board members. We're just here to serve you and serve the community. But I'm just asking you to work with us and we'll get it done. I promise you, we'll get it done. Let's come back to the table. Trust our administrative staff. That's why we hired them, and that they'll do a great job. No one is perfect, and there's no perfect decisions. But continue to dialogue. Let's continue to talk about it, and let's collaborate, and we will get through this, and we'll make the best move and decisions for our students. Continue to be safe, be healthy, and enjoy your summer, because it's been a long road, and we will get through this together. And I will end my comments now, and did you want to say something?
I just wanted to clarify one point.
Sure, or BA has a comment, go ahead.
On a question that came up earlier regarding the federal funds, the ESSER funds, the capital projects that are in the current year's budget, the 21-22 school year, that has no relation to the federal funds. That was already, the district has been saving over the years for capital projects, so it's unrelated. The ESSER funds have very strict protocols on how they could be spent. Social emotional learning, accelerated learning, and a very big focus, as one of the board members mentioned before, will be improving air quality. So that's the direction we're going.
And in closing, I just want to say again, thank you for coming. And we went back into executive session because sometimes we have to do that, and sometimes it's the right thing to do. And we talk, we come back, and we make decisions. But trust us in making these decisions, and we'll all get through this together. Get home safe, journey mercies, and move a motion to end the meeting right now.
Is there a second? Mr. Nully? All in favor?
Aye. Thank you again for coming out.
Thank you, Mr. James Vickery.
Thank you, Scott.
All right, take care, Scott.
Good night. Good night.
Good night. Yes, ma'am.